Hi, thanks for joining today. As I record this, it's early spring here in the Northeast US. We're just transitioning over from a long winter, and this spring is especially poignant as we're also feeling like we're turning the corner from COVID pandemic isolation. Now, those two themes have been especially important this year. That concept of isolation. Here in the Northeast US, winter is isolating in and of itself. And then for the past year, it's been particularly difficult. But there's a promise of hope coming for all of us. The reason I explain this for this presentation on embedding apps with scalable BI dashboards and visualizations using QuickSight is that theme of coming together, of removing isolation, of removing distance for people. We'll look at why embedded analytics. We'll look at some Amazon QuickSight use cases. And then I'll finish with a summary of what we discussed and next steps for you. Here at Amazon in our presentations, we love our calls to action. I'll leave you with a few of those today. Before I begin, there's something I'd like you to think about. Recent Gartner research indicates that 63% of CEOs are considering some sort of product as a service offering over the next 2 years. 63% of CEOs surveyed by Gartner. Product as a service lends itself very well to embedded analytics. And this creates a tremendous opportunity for you to capitalize on the direction your customers are going and enable them with ways to get better access to data and a better user experience. But I'd like to leave the definition of that and the information there to our customer Blackboard. They embedded Amazon QuickSight to bring information closer to the point where learning was happening. They specifically wanted to remove distance from the users of data and the actions that those users were taking. So why embedded? Like in our example, we want to remove distance between information, users, and the actions that they take. Let's step back for a second. In traditional business intelligence, the applications and the sources of data were separated from the places that people analyze that data. And there are still plenty of valid use cases for that today. In large enterprises, there may be many disparate systems that are bringing data together to where a user wants to go into a console that's dedicated for BI. We see plenty of that with Amazon QuickSight. But we're also seeing a tremendous opportunity, just like Blackboard, where customers of ours want to be able to bring data together at the point of action. They want users to be able to perform an analysis and look at what the numbers are telling them in their visualizations and dashboards at the point where they can take actions with respect to that data. So in traditional BI, we have data generated in one location, we have data visualized in another location. Users have two completely separate experiences. Think about that from the perspective of your users. They are going into a BI console specifically for the purpose of doing BI. Again, perfectly valid use cases for these for enterprises, but people are in a mindset of analysis. And then when they want to take action, they need to usually go out into a separate application. With embedded BI, we can meet the user where they already are. User logs into a single console. The application where they're already performing their actions can present rich visualizations, machine learning powered insights, natural language narratives. Users can interact with the data right at the point where they're making and executing actions in response to that data. Think about this from the perspective of your IT teams as well. With Amazon QuickSight, you're not managing separate applications in the embedded case. Amazon is also managing the infrastructure for you. I'll talk a little bit about that down in a bit. Now, here at Amazon, one of the most common requests we get from our customers is, how do we derive more value from our data? Data today, being the lifeblood of a modern enterprise, has tremendous potential for unlocking business performance, not only for your company, but for your customers and partners and others in your ecosystem. By embedding analytics within your applications, you're helping them to unlock that value, again, right at the point where they're taking their actions. For ISVs, for software vendors, this means increased user engagement. This means increased value of your product. This means giving potential tiered levels. We see a number of customers who will set up embedded analytics as a way to upsell users to different levels of tiered service, creating deeper and deeper engagement and a better user experience. For enterprises, as I mentioned, this creates a more unified, seamless experience for your users. Within an embedded application, they have a single console that they can log into. They can get access to data at the point where they're making decisions and they're executing actions in response to those decisions. And their satisfaction increases. We're seeing more and more cases where even internal applications at enterprises or portals are being enabled with rich visualizations and dashboards. Now, embedded BI does bring about some unique challenges. If you think about it, you're bringing together disciplines from multiple areas of the business. It starts with DevOps. How do you manage the assets related to business intelligence? And then, of course, your data pipeline. How do you manage the data for analytical purposes? This is the ultimate presentation of data to the end user. Now, that end user, if you're creating a differentiated experience, needs to identify themselves. So, of course, there's identity management that's involved. Identity management is just one part of that differentiation and security. We can talk different look and feel. We can talk different feature set available. As I mentioned, different tiered levels for subscribed customers. That all comes in differentiation and security. Not to mention things like row level, column level, and table level security. And then we think about the visualizations themselves. How are we presenting data to our users in a way that's actionable for them, in a way that resonates with them? And how do we, when giving them the power of ad hoc analysis, how do we present data to them in a secure way that allows them to build visualizations that drive their business? Finally, this all comes together as part of user experience. Embedding analytics within your application is ultimately to deliver an experience to your end user. So you want to make sure that that meshes nicely and that all flows together. So there are a number of disciplines that are required to bring embedded analytics to your users in a meaningful and productive fashion. And AWS, of course, has the tools across this entire life cycle to make those things possible for you. Now, where does QuickSight come into this? Of course, I'm talking to you today about embedded analytics. So QuickSight enables you to create a seamless embedded experience for your end users. When your users are in your application and interacting with QuickSight, it feels as if they're just using a part of your application and not going out for a separate experience related to BI. That enables your users to have deeper data insights, either ones that you provide for them or ones that they develop on their own. Amazon QuickSight provides easy, clickable machine learning enabled insights directly within our web-based console. Your users now can get forecasting, anomaly detection, and natural language narratives right within the context of your application. Now, I mentioned QuickSight scalability. One of the more compelling aspects of Amazon QuickSight is the scalability and ease of management. There's no infrastructure for you to manage. There are no instance sizes for you to think about. Imagine that within your SaaS application, all you need to do is provision your users as needed, and Amazon QuickSight will manage the underlying infrastructure to ensure that it scales to your needs. Our easy pricing models ensure you only pay for what you use. No longer are you provisioning users, they're sitting idle, and you're paying on those licenses. With Amazon QuickSight, you can provision as many users as you need, and you don't pay a cent for them until they actually use the system. Finally, our set of rich APIs and SDKs allow for seamless integration with your application, access to your data, maintenance of security at appropriate levels. Remember, security at AWS is priority 1, and QuickSight is no stranger to that. Integrated with identity and access management, QuickSight also provides its own security model, allowing you to control the access that your users have to data and dashboards, and allowing you to give owners the ability to create their own dashboards, share them as they see fit, and use only curated data sets as you've provided for them, or bring their own data if you want to enable that. I'll take a few moments now to have a look at Amazon QuickSight embedded within an application, and we'll see exactly how this works. For our demonstration, we'll look at some of the most commonly requested features of embedded analytics. In particular, we'll look at row-level security. We'll look at separation of user groups into namespaces. And we'll look at the ability to change colors and themes. Now, I've got two different groups of users here, manufacturers and shippers. And to make things simple, I've got an author in each one and a reader in each one. And I've also kept the names of the users to match the names of the namespaces. You can see the first letters match, just so we know which namespace that we're working with. Now, for purposes of this demo, I've made it very easy. I'll auto-populate credentials just by selecting a user. Let's look at Matteo first. He is an author in the manufacturer namespace. You'll notice I've designed this that a dashboard comes up even for an author user, but an edit button is available. This is actually outside of QuickSight. This is within the host page, but I wanted to show the interaction of your application with QuickSight. So Matteo looks at this dashboard and wants to make some edits to it. Now, I'm not going to make any changes, but I'm going to show you the impact of having a set namespace for manufacturers. When Matteo goes to publish the dashboard, we'll just say we're going to replace an existing one. And he goes to choose users. You can see there are only users that start with M. Remember our mnemonic, all of our manufacturers have names that start with M. I'm going to cancel that. Matteo's not going to make any changes. The other thing I want you to notice, some of the values here, in particular the top states by total downloads are Texas, New York, and Pennsylvania. Now I'm going to sign out as Matteo, and I'm going to go in as Shirley. Notice here that some of the values are different when I'm coming in as Shirley, and that's the impact of row-level security.
Shirley and other users in the shipper's namespace can only see certain values, and that's why we've got them filtered down. Now, as Shirley, I am going to make some edits. I'd like to change the theme. Some of our customers prefer a darker theme. I kind of like that myself. And now I'm going to publish this dashboard with the changes to it. I'm going to replace an existing dashboard. And now let's take a look at the users that are available in the shippers group. Notice by our mnemonic, everybody in the shippers group starts with S. So from Shirley's perspective, an author in the shippers group, it looks like the entire universe of QuickSight users is limited to this set. So I'm going to publish this for our reader that we've got in this example in the shippers group. And I'll share with her. I'll sign back out. And I'll come in as Sava. And we can see the impact of the dashboard as Shirley made it. We can see the data is filtered down using the row-level security credentials that I mentioned before. And the change to the dark theme is showing up as Sava. Oh, and once again, I don't see an edit button here for Sava. And just to make sure, let's go back to our reader within the manufacturers group. And that dashboard still has the light theme, is filtered to the data for manufacturers, and hasn't had any changes made to it. So once again, we looked at the impact of row-level security, filtering data as appropriate to different users or groups of users. We looked at the ability to limit sharing of users for authors to only the groups of users within their namespace. And we also looked at the ability to change colors of dashboards to match the look and feel as desired.
Now, we've looked at a few aspects of the embedded analytics within Amazon QuickSight. Right now, I'd like to take you through 3 potential scenarios that we see based on our customers' needs. The first scenario is embedding pre-built dashboards for authenticated users. In this case, you're building those dashboards for your users, and you're enabling security for them, either at the row level, column level, table level, or other levels as you need. This is all fully configurable and manageable via API. In this case, you've got named users within the system, but remember, they're authenticating to your application, and then there's seamless single sign-on between your application and Amazon QuickSight. As I mentioned, scale and infrastructure is managed by QuickSight. You don't have to think about instance sizes. You don't have to think about provisioning capacity. As you add new users, as user demand increases during peak capacity times, Amazon's auto scaling will just manage that for you without you having to give it a second thought. We're also seeing demand from our customers for what we call anonymous embedding. That's embedding dashboards without user provisioning. This is commonly used within blogs and wikis and portals. Imagine rich visualization experiences right where your users are consuming content. No need to provision users, just grab an embed URL and go. Finally, we have the pinnacle of embedded analytics, and that's where you can enable ad hoc dashboard authoring within your application. Several years ago, I was at Gartner IT Expo in a room full of senior IT executives. As the presenter came out on stage, he asked the audience, how many of you would like to get your IT teams out of the reporting business? I guess about 90 to 95% of the hands in the room went up. Embedded authoring can enable that for you. Put the control of ad hoc visualizations, machine learning insights, dashboard creation, and natural language narratives in the hands of your customers. Again, scale is managed by Amazon. No need for you to worry about capacity, instance sizes, anything of that nature. Now, with embedded authoring, of course, comes some additional security considerations. It's one thing for you to curate the data for your users, but your authors, giving them the ability to share what they build with other users, you want to make sure that that's locked down, particularly in multi-tenant environments. Amazon QuickSight has namespaces. Namespaces allow you to separate your tenants into separate areas that are fenced off from all of your other tenants. So if I'm an author within a namespace and I go to share a dashboard that I've created, the universe of people that I can see to share with are only other users within that namespace. Now let's have a look at the workflow of an embedded session for your user. The user begins, as I've mentioned, by accessing your web application. They're authenticating just as they did before, only signing on to your application. At some point in the process, they want something from the QuickSight system. That might be a dashboard that you've created. It might be an embedded authoring session. And they indicate that somehow by clicking some kind of navigation, a button, a link, whatever it is that you've set up. Upon that click, you make a request back to the server side. You get an embed URL from the QuickSight system. That embed URL is configured either anonymously or using user credentials as we've described before. But contained within the session information of that URL is any of the security that you've shared with us that you require for that user session. That gets passed back up client-side and passed into our client-side SDK, resulting in the user being able to see and consume the content as requested. One thing to note across this entire flow, user only authenticated to your application, never had to authenticate directly to QuickSight, and under the covers, QuickSight was managing the infrastructure to meet demand. No need to worry about capacity for you. Why does serverless matter? In a traditional server-based BI architecture, all of the elements that you see on the left require more servers and more management. As you add users, you need to provision more servers or think about larger instance sizes. As your dashboards become more complex, more servers and management. Geographic distribution becomes a more complex problem in addition to capacity management. Availability and total cost of ownership, again, more servers, more management. How many times have you purchased a license for a software product only to find out down the road as your usage grows, there were additional costs associated with infrastructure growth? With Amazon QuickSight, our pricing and our experience represents a simple total cost of ownership for you. You simply provision your users and go. As dashboards get more complex, no problem. The infrastructure will scale. Need geographic distribution? Just provision in the geography that you need it. High availability, baked in. And true total cost of ownership is reflected in our pricing. Why is our pricing different? I've mentioned this a couple of times. One, it takes everything into account. It's true TCO. No infrastructure, no services, only the pricing associated with QuickSight. But it's capacity pricing, meaning you can provision as many users as you need to, but you won't get charged for those users unless they use the system. That's why companies like Siemens, a large multinational with a diverse set of businesses, trusts QuickSight to embed within their applications and trusts the AWS security that underlies it to give them the confidence that they need in their deployments. Using SAML-based authentication, using VPC-based deployments has allowed Siemens to bring BI to a much larger audience within their company. Similarly, NFL, as part of their Next Gen Stats program, has embedded QuickSight within the applications that they share with their teams to give them better access to statistics and data on a team-by-team basis. So we've looked at why embedded business intelligence. We've looked at some Amazon QuickSight use cases, user-based embedding, anonymous embedding, and embedded authoring. And my call to action for you, if you haven't already, is to get started with Amazon QuickSight and to check out our developer portal. We've got examples of all of those different cases, anonymous, user-based, and embedded authoring, how to do it, how to set up security in multiple languages, Java, Python, C#, JavaScript, all right there on our developer portal. It's easy to get started. And of course, you can always reach out to your Amazon team. Don't forget, we've got a full body of training and certification. So in addition to what I mentioned to you, there's lots of blogs on QuickSight. And in fact, if you're considering certification for analytics specialty, QuickSight is part of that exam. So good training there. And of course, training across the entire AWS ecosystem. I want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate you coming to learn more about QuickSight and embedded use cases. And I want to remind you, as you know, and as I mentioned, data is very important. So please take a few moments and complete the session survey. We're very interested in your feedback, and we'd love to raise the bar on these presentations as we go forward. Thanks again.